Welcome back to Context Education. We are so glad to have you here with us.
For another deep dive.
Yes. You know we love to bring you deep dives on all sorts of topics.
And we really appreciate your support.
We do.
Yeah, so if you're enjoying the show,
If you're loving it.
please consider subscribing.
Absolutely.
That way you won't miss out on any of our future episodes.
You know what we are diving deep into today?
What is that?
Job interviews.
Ooh,
One of the most
class.
stressful parts of, well,
Adulting.
the professional world.
Absolutely.
So we're going to unpack those tricky questions that come up in job interviews.
All right.
We're going to try to understand why interviewers ask those questions.
The hidden secrets.
Exactly. And then we're going to give you the tools to answer them effectively.
Because really, an interview should be a two-way street.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a chance for you to learn about the company, too.
Definitely.
And for them to learn about you.
Yes, and it's a chance for you to show them what you've got and why you're the perfect fit.
Yeah.
So we've got some great source material here for this deep dive.
Lots of common interview questions.
Lots of them. And so we're going to look through those and break them down.
Awesome.
So we're going to start with what seem to be kind of the simpler questions.
Like those general introductory questions.
Yeah, like those getting to know you questions.
Right?
But they can actually be some of those difficult ones
They can be tricky.
because you think they're straightforward.
You think, oh, this is easy.
But there's actually a lot more to them than meets the eye.
Absolutely.
So let's take, for example, that classic question. Tell me about yourself.
Yeah.
I feel like everyone has dreaded that question at some point in their lives.
Right. It feels like you're supposed to give your whole life story.
Yeah. Like, where do I even begin?
But actually, what the interviewer is really looking for
Right.
is a concise and compelling narrative
Yes.
that highlights your professional journey.
And shows how that journey has brought you to this point.
Exactly. And why you're a good fit for this specific role.
Yes. So it's not about, telling them about your childhood pet.
His
Or,
favorite hobbies
unless those things are directly relevant,
to the job.
right, to the job.
Yeah, it's about showcasing your self-awareness and your career trajectory.
So you're helping them see,
Connect the dots.
yes, connect the dots
It's
between
the-
your past and this opportunity.
Okay, so how about another one of those kind of general questions? Why are you leaving your current job?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, our source material suggests being honest, but with a positive spin.
Which makes sense. You don't want to be negative.
No, you don't want to badmouth your previous employer or anything.
Right.
So how do we strike that balance?
Well, you want to frame it in a way that highlights your ambition and your desire for growth.
Okay.
So instead of saying, my boss is a nightmare, or I hate my coworkers,
Yeah.
you could say something like, I'm looking for a role where I can take on more responsibility.
Okay.
Or I'm excited to contribute to a company with a mission that aligns with my values. So it's about, showing them that you're moving towards something better.
Right. You're not running away from something.
You're not running away from something.
And absolutely
running towards
to do opportunity.
a new challenge.
Okay, let's do one more of these general questions before we move on.
Okay.
Why do you want to work here?
That's a big one.
It is a big one, and this one can feel like a trap
It can if you're not prepared.
if you haven't done your research.
Right, because they want to see that you're genuinely interested in their company,
Not just any company.
not just any job.
So it's not enough to just say, oh, it seems like a great place to work.
No, you need to go deeper than that.
What do we need to do?
You need to demonstrate that you've done your research.
Okay.
You've looked into their values, their mission, their recent projects.
Show them that you've gone beyond just skimming the company website.
Right. Show them you've really thought about it.
Yes, and that you're excited about this specific company.
Exactly. And how your goals align with theirs, because that's what they're looking for.
They want to see that you're a good fit.
Okay, so we've covered some of those general introductory questions.
Tip of the iceberg.
Now things get really interesting when we dive into behavioral questions.
Oh, yes. These are the ones that really dig into your past experiences.
Yeah, they're designed to see how you've handled situations in the past.
Because past behavior is often a good predictor of future behavior.
That's the thinking.
Right. Exactly.
So one of the classic behavioral questions is, tell me about a time you faced a challenge at work. How did you handle it?
Ooh, yeah, that one can be tough.
It can be tough because it feels like they're just waiting for you to reveal your weaknesses.
Right. But actually, they're not necessarily looking for perfection.
What are they looking for?
They want to see your problem-solving skills.
Okay.
Your resilience, your ability to learn from your experiences.
So it's not about pretending that you never make mistakes.
No, it's about showing them how you handle those mistakes.
How you overcome those challenges.
And how you grow from them.
Right, so it's an opportunity to showcase your ability to navigate difficult situations.
And come out stronger on the other side.
Now, our source material mentions the STAR method as a really useful tool.
Oh yes, the STAR method.
For structuring your responses to these types of questions.
It's a great framework.
Can you break that down for us?
Absolutely. STAR stands for situation, task action, and result.
Okay.
So you start by describing the situation you were in.
Okay.
Then you outline the task you were responsible for.
Right.
Then you detail the actions you took to address the challenge.
And finally,
you share the results of your efforts.
So it's not just about describing the problem.
Right. It's about showcasing your proactive approach.
And the positive outcome you achieved.
Exactly. You're turning a potentially negative situation into a chance to shine.
I like that.
Yeah.
So how would you answer that question?
Let me think.
Tell me about a time you faced a challenge at work. How did you handle it?
Thinking back on my own career.
Yeah, what challenge comes to mind?
Well, early in my career,
Uh-huh.
I was tasked with leading a team on a really tight deadline.
Okay. High pressure situation.
It was, and we had to deliver a presentation to a really important client.
All right.
So the situation was leading this team with this tight deadline,
Right.
and the task was to create and deliver this impactful presentation.
Okay. And what were the challenges that came up?
Well, for one, we had some conflicting ideas within the team.
Oh, yeah. That always happens.
It does, and then we also had some unexpected technical difficulties.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it was a bit of a nightmare.
So what did you do? What actions did you take?
Well, first I had to really focus on facilitating communication within the team. We
Okay.
had to listen to each other's ideas,
Yeah.
find common ground.
Compromise.
Exactly. And then for the technical issues, I had to quickly troubleshoot and find workarounds.
You had to think on your feet.
I did. And I also had to delegate tasks effectively to make sure everything got done on time.
So you had to really step up as a leader.
I did. And you know what? In the end, the presentation was a success.
Wow.
The client was impressed.
That's great.
Yeah. And the team felt really proud of what we accomplished.
See, that's a great example of how you can take a challenging situation.
And turn it into a positive.
Yeah, and highlight your skills.
Exactly.
Your leadership skills, your problem-solving skills, your ability to work under pressure.
All those good things.
All right, so we've talked about general introductory questions and behavioral questions.
What's next?
Well, there are a few other types of interview questions that we need to cover,
All right.
but we're going to save those for part 2 of our deep dive.
Okay, stay tuned.
But make sure you come back for that.
We'll have lots more tips and advice to help you ace those interviews.
And we'll even do some more role-playing
Fun.
so you can practice your answers.
All right, see you then.
See you then. All right, so welcome back to part 2 of our deep dive on job interviews.
We're ready to tackle some more tough questions.
We are. And, we've already covered some of those general introductory questions and those behavioral questions.
Right, like tell me about yourself and tell me about a time you faced a challenge.
Exactly. So now let's move on to a category of questions that can be really make or break.
Ooh, which ones are those?
Those are the questions that are specific to the role you're applying for.
Oh, yeah, those are important.
They are. And they require you to really connect the dots between your past experience and the skills and responsibilities outlined in the job description.
You got to show them that you've actually read the job description.
And that you understand what they're looking for.
And that you have what it takes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So let's say, for example, the job description mentions that they need someone with strong communication skills.
Okay.
You can't just say, oh, yeah, I'm a great communicator.
No, you got to back it up.
You have to give them specific examples
From your past experience.
that demonstrate those skills.
Like maybe you gave a presentation that went really well.
Right. Or you led a team project where you had to communicate effectively with different stakeholders.
Or you resolved a conflict through clear and respectful communication.
Yes. Those are all great examples.
You got to show them. Don't just tell them.
And it's the same for any other skills or experience they're looking for.
Project management, technical skills, problem solving, you name it.
Find those keywords in the job description.
And then match them up with specific examples from your own background.
And don't be afraid to quantify your experience.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good tip.
Like if they're looking for someone with experience in a certain software program.
Don't just say, I'm proficient in Excel.
Right. Say, I've been using Excel for 5 years to manage large data sets and create complex financial models.
Give them the details.
The details matter.
They do.
Now, what if you're lacking experience in a particular area?
That's a good question because nobody's perfect.
Right, you're not going to have every single skill they're looking for.
So what do you do?
Well, honesty is always the best policy. Acknowledge that you don't have direct experience in that area.
Emphasize your willingness to learn.
Yes. And highlight transferable skills.
Because you probably have skills from other areas that you can apply.
Right, like maybe you haven't used that specific software program, but you've used a similar one.
Or you're a quick learner and you're eager to get up to speed.
Exactly. Show them that you're adaptable and you're not afraid of a challenge.
Enthusiasm goes a long way.
It does. All right, so we've talked about role-specific questions where you really need to highlight your skills and experience.
What's next?
Well, now let's talk about a type of question that can be a little bit trickier to navigate.
Oh boy.
Those are the questions that are designed to assess cultural fit.
Cultural fit, what's that?
Well, it's basically how well you would mesh with the company's values, work style, and overall environment.
So they're trying to see if you'd be a good fit for their team.
Exactly. And these questions can be tricky because they're often a bit more subjective.
Okay, so how do you prepare for those?
Research. Do your homework on the company.
Look at their website, their social media, their employee reviews.
Get a sense of their culture.
What are their values? What's their mission? What's it like to work there?
And then think about how your own values and work style align with theirs.
So if a company really values teamwork and collaboration,
highlight your experience working effectively in teams.
if they prioritize innovation and creativity,
Showcase your ability to think outside the box and come up with new ideas.
and if they emphasize work-life balance,
Talk about your own commitment to maintaining a healthy work-life balance.
show them that you've done your research and that you're genuinely interested in their company culture,
Because that's what they're looking for. They want to see that you'd be a good fit, not just for the role.
but for the company as a whole.
Exactly. Now let's talk about a specific example of a cultural fit question.
Okay.
One that often comes up is, what type of work environment do you thrive in?
Ooh, that's a good one.
It is, and it's a chance for you to really showcase your self-awareness.
And how you work best.
So think about what kind of environment you're most productive and happiest in.
Do you prefer a fast-paced environment or a more relaxed one?
Do you like to work independently or collaboratively?
Do you need a lot of structure or do you prefer more autonomy?
Once you've thought about those things,
You can articulate them to the interviewer.
and again, connect it back to the company's culture
Show them that you've done your research.
and that you understand what it's like to work there.
All right, so we've covered role-specific questions and cultural fit questions.
We've made some good progress,
But there are still a few more types of questions we need to discuss.
and we're going to get to those in part 3 of our deep dive.
Stay tuned, folks.
We're going to talk about those closing questions,
The ones that really wrap things up.
like why should we hire you?
Yeah.
And what are your salary expectations?
Those are the big ones.
They are. But don't worry, we'll give you the tools to answer them with confidence.
Can't wait.
So make sure you come back for part 3. We'll be here. See you then. Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive on job interviews.
We're in the home stretch now.
We are, and we've covered a lot of ground so far.
We have those general introductory questions, behavioral questions, role-specific questions, cultural fit questions.
We've really hit all the major categories.
I think we're ready for anything.
I think so too. But there are a couple more types of questions that we need to talk about.
Okay, what are they?
Those closing questions.
Oh, those can be tricky.
They can, because they often feel like a make or break moment.
Right, you've made it through all the other questions.
You've built up this rapport with the interviewer.
And then they hit you with something like, why should we hire you?
Exactly. Or, what are your salary expectations?
Those are the tough ones.
But don't worry, we're going to give you the strategies to answer them with confidence.
All right, let's do it.
So let's start with that classic closing question. Why should we hire you?
It feels like they're putting you on the spot.
It does, right?
Like they're challenging you to prove yourself.
But it's actually an opportunity
An opportunity for what?
to really drive home your key strengths and your value proposition.
Okay, so it's like your elevator pitch.
Exactly. It's your chance to succinctly summarize everything you've talked about in the interview.
And leave them with a compelling reason to choose you.
Yes. So think about what makes you unique.
What are your top skills and experiences?
What are your biggest accomplishments?
And how do those things align with the specific needs of the role and the company?
Weave it all together into a concise and persuasive answer.
So basically, you're reminding them why you're the best candidate for the job.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about another closing question that can be a bit nerve-wracking.
Which one is that?
What are your salary expectations?
Oh, yeah. Nobody likes talking about money.
It can be awkward,
especially in an interview setting.
but it's an important part of the process.
So how do you handle it?
Well, first, do your research
Look at websites like Glassdoor or salary.com.
to get a sense of the typical salary range for similar roles in your industry and location.
So you know what's reasonable to ask for.
Exactly. And then be prepared to discuss your expectations.
But also be flexible.
Yes, it's a negotiation,
So you might not get exactly what you want right away.
but you should have a clear understanding of your worth.
And be prepared to advocate for yourself.
Now, there's one more type of closing question that we need to touch on.
Okay, what's that?
It's those questions that ask you to envision your future at the company.
Like, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Exactly. Or what would you do in your first 90 days in this role?
Those can be tough because you don't want to overpromise or underpromise.
Right. You want to strike the right balance.
So how do you do that?
Well, first, be honest about your career goals.
Where do you see yourself heading?
What are you hoping to achieve?
But also be realistic.
Don't say you want to be CEO in 5 years if that's not a realistic goal.
Right. You want to show them that you're ambitious, but also grounded.
And for those questions about your first 90 days,
It's all about demonstrating that you've thought about how you would approach the role.
you've got a plan.
You're ready to hit the ground running.
So highlight your key priorities.
What would you focus on first?
How would you get up to speed quickly?
How would you start making a contribution?
Show them that you're proactive and eager to make a difference.
And that you've already given some thought to how you would succeed in this role.
Exactly. All right, so we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive on job interviews.
We've talked about so many different types of questions.
And hopefully you feel more prepared to tackle those interviews.
I know I do.
Remember, it's all about preparation, practice, and confidence.
You got this.
So go out there and ace those interviews.